Hello and welcome to Slam Fire Radio, episode 347 for March 26, 2020. I am one of your hosts, Trevor the Filate.
I am another one of your hosts, Kelly Lynn.
And I am another one of your hosts, Adriel.
Okay, so you're supposed to say the classic one, you're supposed to say Frosty. We do names or we do nicknames, and we always do it the same. Why tonight? Do you decide to...
I can only pick what the last person picked. I have a memory of one.
Right.
Yes.
That's the thing for you. I forgot your savantiness.
I was just challenging you.
Don't challenge my authority.
Challenging, yeah.
Yes. Don't test me, woman. Make me a sandwich.
I got wings waiting. Hurry up.
Oh, Jesus, that's important. Let's get on with it then. All right. Let's move into everyone's favorite segment. Oh, damn. Adriel, we didn't do the thing with the... Oh, man, we'll talk later. All right. Everyone's favorite segment, what we did this week in guns, which is brought to you by the Calgary Shooting Center, Canada's premier firearms retailer. Guess what's back in stock, kids? Guess. No, don't. It's not fair. You have the show notes.
Ultimate survival weapon, but
ultimate.
You need to put a TAPCO stock on it for it to work.
According to video games. Yes, they have, for your collection or boogaloo purposes, both Russian and Chinese SKS rifles.
How much?
In stock. I think they are, stand by, I will click the link. They've gone up a little bit from the last time. Yeah, $350 this time.
Everything's going up.
Everything's going up.
Ammo's going to go up, you know.
Our dollar
ammo's going to go way up.
Yeah.
We're going to.
Ammo is...
Good thing all of the hosts here are sitting on thousands of rounds.
Thousands.
And, yeah.
I'm not.
Buy that much.
It's time to start hoarding 22, kids.
Yeah.
If your Canadian Tire and Walmart is open and there's 22, go buy it all.
You bet.
I'm telling you.
It's going to get more expensive. Yeah,
yep. It's not going to get... It's going to be unobtainium. It's American made. The Canadian dollar has taken a complete nosedive. And there's no lead coming into North America. So no lead, no bullet manufacturing. Start panic buying now. You're welcome.
Even the federal crap stuff, buy it.
Buy it. Buy any 22 you can find right now.
Yeah.
But I already have I
don't care.
15.
Don't care. Buy more.
Or so.
Remember what McClatchy taught us? The only time you have too much ammo is when you're either on fire or swimming. Otherwise, you can never have too much ammo. So, let's get into what we did. I took a day trip on Monday. I risked putting the entire globe at risk by driving to Moncton and back. And I went to sight in a couple of guns. I got a new scope for my SLR from Jeff Reese, and I couldn't remember if I sighted it in or not, because it seems to me I installed it after the shooting season. So I had a new Leupold Mark AR with an illuminated red dot. I didn't know if it was sighted in. That was driving me nuts. My Modern Sporter, which is typically set up in a 7.62x40 configuration, I switched it to 223 is what I'm doing a terrible job at trying to say. Good. This is a Maple Ridge barrel with the twist rifling instead of the straight rifling. It looks kind of cool. So I turned that back into a 223 and put the Strike Eagle 1-8 on there. I had on there a Vortex Viper HST, which is a phenomenal piece of glass. It's a 4-16, and it made a lot of sense on that gun when that gun was primarily set up as a hunting gun shooting a 30 caliber bullet. Some people may be wondering why I took off the 7.62x40 WT barrel, and that is because, unfortunately, was an experiment for IBI. There's nobody making those barrels outside of Wilson. IBI said they'd do it for me. We didn't know that Wilson uses a carbine length gas system on all of their 7.62x40 WT barrels, regardless of the length of barrel. Even their 20-inch barrel uses a carbine length system.
Whoa, really?
Really. And it has to do with dwell time, the amount of gas that's created. What's that, Adriel?
Well, I was thinking like burn rates of the powder that you were using in there. Maybe it just doesn't have enough pressure when it's out in the middle of the barrel?
Oh, it's called dwell time, and the longer the barrel, the less pressure you have when you get to the gas port. And so they use a 0.89 gas port and a carbine length gas system on all their barrels. Got that in an email from them because I sent them an email. I said, hey guys, I'm not getting enough gas pressure to cycle the action reliably, and I've used lightweight action parts or like a lightweight bulk carrier group, a lightweight buffer, and they immediately went, we never sold you a barrel. No, that's right, you didn't. I had one made. Oh, well, good luck, pal, because they don't work with a rifle length gas system. We use carbine length and 0.89 gas port on all of our barrels, regardless of length. I was like, oh.
Can't you just hog out the gas port? Couldn't you just like auger it a bit?
We did. We opened it up a couple of times. Now, it was opened up again to the exact same diameter as the hole in the gas block. There's obviously no point in having it bigger because that would be stupid. So Captain Andy figured out the size of the gas port in the gas block, and he made the gas port in the barrel the same size. I didn't bother getting around to testing it, see if it would work, because Ryan's like, dude, I got you, no problem, I'll make you another barrel. And then I decided to go 223 for the Apocalypse and put that Maple Ridge barrel that Ben found me. No, Ben didn't find it. Ben bought it, and he decided not to use it on his AR and sold it to me for exactly what he paid for, which contradicts everything that Mike Pospolita says about Ben. Mike, you're wrong. Ben is actually a good guy. He's not always out to make a buck off his friends. And he doesn't like Tikkas, so he's a good guy. So, Filthy right now is probably giggling. Mike might even be giggling. Mike might be watching. Mike knows I love Tikkas.
So you filled up, you got the gas port bigger, but you didn't test it with that bigger gas port machined into it.
We tested. We opened up the gas port, I think, 3 times, and it didn't make a difference. The 4th time, I did not get around to testing before I switched the rifle back. It didn't matter because Ryan at IBI said he was going to make me a new barrel with a carbine length gas system and a 0.89 gas port.
What if? I mean, you're going to have an extra barrel now, or he's going to have an extra barrel now that he's not going to be able to use. What if?
I still have it here.
Oh, what if you change the powder you're using to give you more pressure further down the barrel?
I'm using the optimum powder for that cartridge right now, and I actually exceeded the published data. Like, you want to talk about a compressed load? It was so compressed, it put a ring around the bullet, seating the bullet. Okay.
How far from cycling was it? I'm just curious. I'm sure other people.
Every once in a while, Adriel.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, it would strip one off.
Yeah, that's
so, but just not reliably. I even went to I could have did more. I went to a lightweight bulk carrier group. I went to a regular weight buffer. I could have went to an even lighter weight buffer. I could have went with a spring.
Yep.
Right. I had an adjustable gas port or block that was open all the way, full on gas. There's more I could have done, but after Wilson told me 0.89 gas port and carbine length gas system, and Ryan said, "Dude, I got you. I'll make you another barrel." That was it. That was the end of the conversation. That was the end of the experimenting, I should say. What's that, Kelly?
He's such a good guy.
Oh, I guess. Yeah, awesome. So I put the optic that was on this rifle, and I took it out to Filthy's range and shot it for the first time. This is the Howa Mini Action. You get them either as heavy barrel that's threaded for a solvent trap, or just a regular profile barrel. They come in like a kit. You can get them with 2 mags, an optic already mounted on the gun, a bipod. There's one version that even comes with a rifle case as well. So the Nico Sterling scope that was on here wasn't enough scope for what I wanted to do. It was a good scope. It was 3-9, which meh. So I took this out to the range, and I first zeroed this optic, which is a Viper HST 4-16x44, with the bulk 55 grain ammo that I make for my ARs and my SLRs and my modern sporters and stuff. For a bulk ammo that I load on the Dillon, it's a 55 grain Campro bullet with 26 grains of H335, and it shoots great in my guns. It's blaster ammo. I use it in matches, but I've never bothered to pick my SLR or one of my ARs and say, okay, do you like 62 grains and do you like 25.3 grains of powder? I was like, screw that. I can't be bothered doing that kind of load development. I'm just going to make 26 grains, which is the max charge with a 55 grain bullet, and you're all going to like it that way. And that's the way they like it. Except for this thing, man. This thing's shot. It's 1 in 8 twist barrel, and it shot those 55 grainers at 26 grain with 26 grains of powder at 4 inches. It was not good. And then I had a friend of mine buy some 70 grain Spear soft points that he wanted to put through his 22-250, and then he changed his mind, and I ended up with them. So I loaded some 223 with them, and the max charge for that was 26 grains of Varget, and it was the first one I put through this gun, and it was the best group. It was MOA or better, and I shot all of the other test loads I made up just to fire form the brass. So I've got like 60 or 70 pieces of 223 brass fire formed. So I loaded all those up, and then I had enough prepped Winchester brass to load up the other 150 or so. So I got almost 200 rounds of that Spear 70 grain soft point loaded for this Howa Mini action. So pretty happy with the gun and the accuracy I got out of that. I did order today, though, Hornady 75 grain boat tail hollow points. I'm going to do some load development with that when I can get on my own range in the spring. And because yeah, man, that's a cool little 223 target rifle, right? It's it's not in a chassis. Don't care if it's lightweight. It's good to go. There is one serious downside to it, one flaw, and that is the magazine release is in a ridiculous location. So here's the mag. Yep. Now that mag looks like a 10-round mag, doesn't it? Got lots of length on there.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. 5-round mag. I don't know what this foolishness is underneath the line here, but there's no ammo going in there. So I assumed that it was a 10-round mag. Just looking at it, it looked like a 10-round mag until I tried to put number 6 in it. It would not go. Okay. So here's the mag in the gun.
Uh-huh.
Look where the magazine release is, right in front of the magazine.
Uh-huh.
And it's exactly where your hand rests when you pick up the gun. You bring your hand forward of the action.
Push down on it, and the magazine pops out.
Yep. Your hand hits the magazine release, because the magazine release is where your hand naturally wants to rest while picking up and carrying the firearm. So it's something that you got to be super cognizant of. You got to be aware of it. You got to know it's there and don't hit it. So that's a serious design flaw, and I hope Howa has noticed it and done something to correct it for future models. So anyway, that's the only complaint I have on that. What else? I sold some guns. I think I talked about that. I sold a Remington 870 police clone that I refinished at the shop out of a vintage Wingmaster. Sad day to sell that gun, but I also sold the Cincinnati clone that I won at the Cherry Shoot in Ontario.
Good for you.
Did I sell another shotgun? No, I don't think so. Yeah, but I mean, I still got my 590A1, my 870 tactical, my Versamax, and then I got all my hunting shotguns. Oh, Kelly, guess what I found on CGN?
Gun?
A Baikal over and under.
Oh, really?
So I got a single shot Baikal 12 gauge. I got a single shot Baikal 20 gauge. I got the double barrel 12 gauge I got from Ben. It's a side-by-side. I want an over and under. I don't have an over and under. I got a Baikal collection going on here. Oh. But now is not the time to buy guns. Now is the time to pay for a master's degree, or try to pay for a master's degree, and not buy RC car parts.
When you can't actually go.
What's that?
Nothing. I said,
can't
why?
Go to school.
Can't go to school.
Go to school. It's online.
It's online. I know.
It's online. Yeah.
Well, we'll be ending, so.
Yeah, well, I made a phone call, and the admissions department is working from home, and everything is scheduled to go ahead according to plan. We'll know if we're in or not on schedule in April, and the first course is an online course, and any of the face-to-face courses will just have to be rescheduled. But the program may not by then. The program may not end when it was scheduled to end, but there's no reason for it not to start when it's scheduled to start. So
okay.
we shall see. I'm remaining
Optimistic.
optimistic. So yeah. The other thing I did when I was at Filthy's Range, I developed a load for that 223 as I talked about, but I also developed a load for my Stag 10. And best thing I put through the Stag 10 so far it is a Hornady 178 grain ELDX in
Ooh.
Federal Match Brass with Federal Match primers and 43 grains of Varget.
How much you make?
A lot.
Okay.
Yep. I didn't make a lot in the beginning, but when I got it to the range and it shot MOA or better, then I made 200.
Okay.
So, and then I ordered more, of course. So, yep. And then I bought $450 worth of reloading supplies from Denis, so I could do some more reloading. Because what else am I going to do? Bought another AR-10 mag. Yeah. So that's it for me. Adriel, what about you?
Let's see. Well, I didn't do anything since our coronavirus show, but just in case anyone didn't see it, a holster. I did find something new about this holster. I was like, yeah, it works perfect with my Longboy Yugo in here, but there's one thing that doesn't. The magazine is too long to fit in the spot up here. Because
of course, because it's not the 7-round mag.
Yeah, it's too long, and it's just like it pokes through the leather. So yeah, it's a little bit too long there. I don't know if I care though, because it's so tight getting it in there that I don't think it matters. I don't think I'm going to use that anyways, right? The only time I'm going to use a holster is if I'm shooting like a historical style match, and I'm not going to shoot a historical style match with a holster and a magazine that can't be stripped out.
Can't come out.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, you can slap it on there and get it nice and tight, but it's gonna poke a hole and start making a dent in the leather there. So I don't think I'm gonna do that. And I also learned something about the Matrix aerospace build that.
What did you
Maple
learn?
Ridge. So their stated weight is 8.5 pounds, and I weighed it as I do with all the guns I review, and it's not 8.5 pounds.
What
Liars.
Adriel?
Liars. It was 8.15 pounds. So it's actually
So it's lighter.
quite a bit lighter than they said, in their advertisement, which is very nice. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was in the stock that they saved some weight, or the barrel profile with the 6.5 over 308. Like maybe they weighed the 308 version and they gave that weight, but it's a very light rifle. So
And so it's how much?
The weight to the cost.
The weight.
8.15 pounds.
I just threw my stag. My stag, as I speak, is on a scale on the ground right now, with 10-round loaded magazine on the side on the scale. Take a guess, man. With the Viper PST Gen 2 and 10 rounds of 308, guess what that puppy weighs?
11, 12 pounds?
12 pounds, 3.8 ounces.
12 pounds. Yeah. With a loaded mag and a scope on here, I'm probably going to be around 11, 11 and a half, somewhere there anyways.
Not a huge difference then.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Because the profile of my barrel is very heavy.
Yes. Yeah, profile of the barrel. That's the only difference you're going to have with these things, the forend and that kind of thing. Like the BCLs are 8.3 pounds, but the stupid forends on them are super chunky. So if you took that forend and replaced it with something better, you would get down to that 8 pounds or so on one of those guys. But don't get one of those guys, because this is a better deal. This is a way better deal. I was actually looking at this. Another buddy of mine was asking, like, should I get this one or the Matrix built one, which is right around $1,900 with all this stuff in it, but it's built. Or should I get the there's a BCL build kit you can get, or should I get like a Stag or something like that? And we looked through them side by side. This is still the better deal. If you appreciate the match barrel, nice forend, nice stock, and the rest of it, who cares, right? It's still a better deal. That's it for me. Kelly, what about you?
I haven't been on in 2 weeks, so yes, I do not have the virus. I was getting messages from people, "Are you sick?" No, I'm not sick. I've just been busy with work. So took 2 shows off. Yeah, it's been 2 shows. Coronavirus. 1. So let's talk about that. So we're doing extra shows, right? Yes.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
You
All
can
right.
tell because we did extra shows.
Thanks. So and then tonight I decided I was going to come back on. I'm still doing a lot of work from home, but I thought I'd say hi because one, the guests really interest me, and Trevor was also throwing me under the bus on Tuesday. So hey, I thought I'd come on. What did I do in the past couple of weeks? So I have the best brother in the world. Just wanted to let everybody know that. We've been talking lately about guns, ammo. He's asking for opinions and things like that about what he should buy with 22, and I was telling him buy whatever you can. But he also, and I said, do you know if anybody is it has some reloading stuff because I need it for my 28 gauge. And he says, well, I have a brand new in the box Mac Jr. that he doesn't need and doesn't want. So he's just going to give it to me. I'm going, you're the best brother ever. I just love him. So I'm going to be able to reload 28 gauge now. So that's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah. What else? So yesterday, Trevor actually he gave me a solid because he said I was looking for
I gave you a solid, or I did you a solid?
That too. did me a solid. So I said that I was looking for a 243. Anything like my nephew. My nephew is 15 years old. And then I also have another nephew who's 11. So that's my brother's kids, obviously. They are really into hunting. They're really into shooting. So we're looking for a 243 for them. And Denis had some in stock. So I contacted Denis and so we bought one for a Browning for my nephew and my younger nephew, and they're going to be using it. Denis shipped it this morning, sent me the tracking number for it, so it's fantastic. It was a really, really good deal as well. So
Awesome.
I wanted to say thank you to Denis for it. I'm going to take pictures and we'll post them. Maybe, I don't know. Kinda, I don't know. Anyways, we'll figure out if we're allowed to post the pictures later. I got the transfer in. They are actually. It's only been 3 weeks. 4 weeks maybe. The Victory. Got the transfer in for it. I'm trying to arrange with the guy that has it to get it to me. We were going to go to SFRC. He was going to drive down there. He was going to get an ATT to the gun store for it. I was going to pick it up and then take it home, whatever. But since SFRC is closed, that's not going to happen. And right now, I'm okay with him having it in his safe for a little bit longer until we figure out what we're going to do with that. And what else? Oh,
could you just pick it up from his place?
I could. Technically, I could.
Yes, because you're the owner, so you can just pick it up.
If it's in your name, your license covers you. If he wants to deliver it, he needs an ATT. If you want to pick it up, you don't.
I know. I told him that, and he lives in another city. I'd have to go there, and we're actually probably going to do that. But right now, I'm okay with him having it in his safe and for another week or 2. So we know what
your name. It should be in your possession, but
I know. Anyways. Okay, so Pat Grandel is a listener, and he's a really, really fantastic guy. He heard that I was taking the Black Badge course, or was going to be taking the Black Badge course, and also looking at.
No, he's not.
What?
How's he going to take the Black Badge course
anytime soon?
No, there's no course going on.
Just hold on. I said he heard I was, right?
Oh,
prior to everything shutting down. And I need a better holster because I have the CZ holster is actually a duty holster. So he sent this in the mail to me. It's a new holster. It's a Ghost
Stinger.
Stinger, yeah. Anyways, I want to say thank you to him because he sent that into mail to me, and really fantastic. But Black Badge course not happening anytime soon. It's supposed to be at the beginning of May, but with everything that's going on, all of the ranges are closed. So thanks, Trevor, for interrupting me.
You're welcome. I look forward to doing it again soon.
I helped too.
Yeah.
It's a team effort.
Yeah, go team.
Yay. So the other thing about
I love it when we work together, Adriel. Like the way we what's
I'm gonna go eat my wings
finish
again while
each
you do
other's
the coffee.
hot wings or sandwiches.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Collaborate. That's the word. We collaborate on
You
projects.
guys are married.
Hmm.
Finishing each other's sentences. or
Sandwiches.
I'd like to finish your
Sandwiches.
wings.
sentences. Okay, done.
You're
Yeah.
done? Okay.
All right.
Moving on.
No, I'm asking if you're done.
No, you didn't ask a question. You said a statement. You said done, which implied you were done what you
with a
did this week
question
and done.
mark.
Would you get on with it? Aren't you hungry?
Yes. The last thing that I've been doing is working a lot on Maple Seed because we actually have been we were looking at putting up the events schedule, but with the recent changes with closing down of ranges here in Ontario and other provinces, we're holding off on posting the schedule. We'll rejig our calendar of events, so hopefully we'll be able to have some more events later in the year too. But
Yeah,
anyways.
it's hard to predict what's happening or what's going to
we
happen.
don't know.
Yeah.
So we're taking each event case by case, and then we'll figure it out. Basically, we'll let people know as well if we need to cancel or if we're actually holding it. I don't know anymore. That's it. That's all I did, I guess. I
Cool.
don't think I have anything else.
All right. We're going to skip upcoming events because who the hell knows?
That's a good point. Upcoming events, none. Coronavirus.
Right.
Yeah.
All
So
we're doing is
news.
virtual.
What do we got for news this
We
week?
got news?
We have a new sponsor for this section, but
We
we're
do.
we're not there yet though. We were supposed to launch the new sponsor live. We'll have to give them an extra episode into the following month. But
Hey, we're doing it. We're
stay
doing extra
tuned.
episodes.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
We might as well.
Yeah.
Well, you know what we'll do?
Mhm.
We'll milk the sponsors for extra money for those bonus episodes. It's like, hey, this is how the
This is
economy
the new
works.
price.
This is the new bonus episode price
I don't want to get laid off though, Trevor.
from Slamfire.
Yeah, from Slamfire.
Not gonna happen.
Oh,
no,
okay.
not gonna happen.
I got some job stability.
Yeah, for sure. More so than I do. At least you do
everyone's getting laid off these days. Okay. Yeah, we did have one piece of news that was that could have been bad, and this is the federal party liberals were looking at putting in some legislation that would have given them essentially unchecked power to tax and spend for whatever they wanted to, which could have then been leveraged to buy back our firearms from us and without adding any extra legislation. They could have just done it, and that would have been that. And rightfully so, the opposition, the Conservative Party, called them out on it, and they revised the legislation. So it is no longer a government dictatorship free for all on our taxpayer money. Which
scary though, eh? She was close.
I still don't trust whatever they're going to do. No, of course they're going to tax and spend a lot of money, and they're going to have the opportunity to pick winners and losers because of it. I just do not trust the government to do that without spending it with their friends. You think SNC Lavalin's going to get any money out of this? Probably going to do all right. Maybe Bombardier, they'll do all right, right?
Not just that. Right before the next election, they're just going to promise everybody everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and that's the other risk is everyone wants wants a paycheck, and the government's forcing everyone to stay home. But where's this money? This isn't free money. Where's the money coming from? Either the government's printing it, which is going to cause huge inflation for us, or they're taking it out on loan, and our kids have to pay for it, right?
They can't just print it. It's been done before and failed horribly, and any grade 10 textbook will tell you that lesson.
Yeah, I've got some World War II German stamps that are like 1 million Deutschmarks to mail some letters. Yeah. Anyways, fantastic that at least some small thing was stopped, even though a bunch of egregious stuff is probably going to roll right through.
Yep.
This is one that we were supposed to bring up last week, and I didn't. It's the Scavenger 6. It's the ultimate survival weapon. I think if I was playing Escape from Tarkov, this would be the right gun for to play with because
Nice.
Oh my God, it's ugly.
yeah, it's ugly.
It's
All
No, we
right.
did talk about this.
No,
we talked about this.
We did not pull it up. No, I put it in.
Shooting every caliber
just-
from 22 to 308. Awesome.
I
yeah,
thought, yeah, man.
everything.
Doug asked us about this.
He asked us
video.
about it. We didn't talk about it on air.
Well, you know
swear we
what?
didn't.
I'm glad we didn't because it's horrible.
Yep.
This
Mhm.
is the stupidest thing ever. Come on, man. It's a. I don't even want to talk about it. I know it's my job and I have to, but I'm so distressed.
Okay, but you could have
What?
like 4 cylinders in your pocket, and like you're scrounging the wastelands where there's like
Why?
been a nuclear apocalypse, and you find some 308. You put that in your 308 cylinder. Boom! Now you got some 308. Find some 9mm. Boom! Throw it in your 9mm cylinder. Now you got that.
Holy crap!
I'm surprised this thing doesn't come with like a ratty backpack that you put it in.
It'll
that,
also shoot 410.
yeah.
So it's a shotgun, a pistol, and a rifle all in one.
It's got
And
a foregrip
it's-
on it too.
So order now. It's the tagline is the weapon of choice, one gun to replace it all.
Right, the ultimate survival weapon. You know what?
Oh, it's playing a video. Oh, it's very loud.
I might be pulling in my horns.
Huh?
I might pull in my horns. I might backtrack. I might do that typical Trevor thing where I come out strong and then go, wait a second.
Wait a minute. What if I put a bipod on this thing and a scope? This is a
What?
DMR. This is a close-up pistol. It's a DMR. You can do everything with it. No,
Yes.
maybe not.
Yes.
I think it's very interesting. I don't think I'll.
It's interesting, that's for sure.
I don't think I'll buy one, but I'm happy that they exist out there.
Yeah.
Canada Downrange episode 2 is live on YouTube. So
You bet.
if you're bored
Apparently,
outside, and you got nothing to
The
do,
expert. We have somebody from our own show on the show, and he's the expert apparently. Pro tips. It was actually
Pro
the pro
tips.
tips section.
Yeah. I was on there with Rod to discuss getting into IPSC.
now
Yeah.
you're live on YouTube with lots of
Yep.
views. Mhm.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was the Ryan Stacy MDT one as well.
Mhm.
I think we'll be seeing me on episode 4, maybe.
Mhm.
I don't know. Anyways,
Yolanda was all
on, yep.
over season 1 as well, too.
Mhm.
the first
And,
episode. It was awesome.
Right. Yeah. She can wear the hell out of some 511s. I just want to
She can.
remind everyone of that. Yeah.
Neato.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
It is actually. It's great that it's available on YouTube. I'm
Can't
hoping
wait for
that-
season 2. Season 2 is going to be so much better than season 1 was.
It's going to be
So-
a lot of dry fire. It's going to be a lot
No,
of
that's season 3.
virtual, a lot of virtual
That's season
and
3.
staying inside. Oh, it's season 3. Okay, season 2's recorded then.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
in
yeah.
the can.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
season,
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
yeah, season
Yeah.
2 was the 2019 shooting season.
Yeah, it was even better. Like they ironed out the kinks a little bit.
They got rid of the production company. That's why they ironed out the kinks. They replaced the production company.
Well,
So-
season 3 will have virtual, a lot of Google Hangouts footage, and a lot of Skype and that kind of thing, right? Zoom meetings,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah, all sorts.
Cool. All right. So, any other news or new guns, Adriel?
No, it's like you can't buy stuff. Like you guys said, if you can find a good deal on ammo right now, buy some. And if you can find a good deal on used stuff, buy that because it's going to be hard to find stuff
Yep.
over the next year.
Not just that.
Regardless of whether you want this for prep or not, you are not going to be able to buy stuff for the next year because the Americans are panic buying everything. All the guns,
Glad
all
you
the
brought
ammos
that
are
up.
gone. And you will not be able to buy. So even if you want to go out hunting or if you want to go do some sports shooting, you're not going to be able to because you're not going to be able to buy stuff. Or if you do, it'll be super expensive. Like I see a lot of people, like all the Blazer 9mm that was really cheap. It's all gone. And now people are using like fancier stuff. That's a lot more expensive. And the other thing is that the U.S. dollar to Canadian dollar, the difference there is quite large. So all the prices on everything's going up. So
The solution to everything you just said
Mhm.
is if a well-known, well-established, premium Canadian manufacturers started to produce AR-15s right here in Canada, so we didn't have to worry about the American supply drying up. Wouldn't that be awesome?
We have AR-15 manufacturers in Canada, though. We have 2.
We have some. Yeah, we have a really good one.
Well, guess what? I have it on good
3.
authority because I had a
3.
conversation this morning with a Canadian manufacturer on the telephone. I'm not going to say any names because this is all insider baseball, but we're soon going to have a third AR-15 Canadian manufacturer.
That's cool.
And this is,
Cool.
yeah, and this is, like I said, a premium, well-established company with a good reputation. So
Who is it? Come on, you can tell us. Come on.
Shh, just between us.
I'll-
I'm
Just
not
between
even
us.
telling you off the air.
Whisper it to
unless
the
you-
mic. Just
I'll-
whisper it to
I'll
us.
send you some wings.
Now you're talking, Kelly. For you? Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, stay
yeah.
tuned for more on that. There's going to be some AR-15s, hopefully. This is all speculative, and this is very preliminary. But I was called this morning and asked my opinions and thoughts on, non-restricted versus restricted, which platform, that sort of thing. And it's like it's a no-brainer, man. Canadians are uppity. And they don't like when Canadian companies do stuff and they poop all over them, all over the internet, and they can never do anything right. And And the SLR, well, my AR does this, and my AR does that. It's not a goddamn AR. How many times do I have to tell you that? It's not an AR, so don't expect it to do everything like an AR. The modern sporter, oh, it's too expensive. Oh, I got to wait too long, and it's not an AR. And like, okay, I get it. You want an AR, restricted or not, you want ARs. So this company's going to start with an AR because it's already an established, proven platform that everybody's in love with, or throwing their hat into the non-restricted ring.
Yep.
Give them what they want. Some people would rather have a restricted AR than a non-restricted gun because they're just range guys. Or if we end up in a situation where it doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter, and they're glad to have an AR.
I would argue that the price to value for an AR is better than any other non-restricted rifle, and it's substantially better than all the other non-restricted rifles. The reliability is better, the accuracy is better, the expandability is better, but they're restricted.
Right. Now, the accuracy, well, that depends on the components that it's built with.
For pure price to performance. Like if you buy a $2,000 AR, it's going to be pretty swanky. That is a swanky AR you're buying.
It really, really is. Mm-hmm. You remember just a few months back, before the C-71 scare, you could get American-made AR-15s out the box, out the door for $650 plus tax.
Yep.
Those days are gone.
Yep.
If you didn't buy that DPMS Oracle for $650 when you had the chance, it'll probably never come around again.
If you had enough cash backstopping you as a Canadian AR manufacturer, here's what you do. You just pump them out. And then you wait until there's a panic. Because there's one every 5 years, it seems like right now, with how the Americans buy their ARs. So you just wait for a panic, and when that panic happens, and there are no ARs in Canada to speak of, then you start pulling them out of the warehouse, and you start selling those things, and you'll be the only player in the game.
Look at this. Look at this. This one still has the zip tie around it. This one, I put in a trigger kit and a charging handle, but these are STI, sequential serial numbers. I got them for $250 a piece, matched upper and lowers. Those days are gone.
You should sell those.
Yeah,
get some good money for those right now.
How am I going to sell it when I can't transfer it to anybody?
Oh, that's another point for another time. But you could sell it and then wait for the transfer.
Actually, somebody told me today that somebody did get through to the Miramichi to transfer a gun.
I've been
pistol.
I've been talking to people as well, and they have been getting through. One guy had to call like 50 times, but he did get through.
They are actually.
Because this one is paid for. We're just waiting for the office to open so I can transfer it. The other one, somebody else has spoken for it but not paid for it, so they are technically gone. So okay, well, why don't we jump into the main topic then? All right. For this week's main topic, we have a very special guest, someone who's been on the show at least one time before to talk about some interesting things regarding the long gun registry that we used to have. Welcome back to Slamfire Radio, Dr. Kylan Langman.
Thanks for having me back.
So, Dr. Langman, before we get started into tonight's topic, which of course is COVID-19, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and your involvement with the firearms community?
So I'm an emergency medicine specialist and practice in Hamilton here. I have an appointment at McMaster University as a professor. My involvement in the firearms debate was interest back in early part of 2010, 2009, when I looked at the numbers of firearms homicides and some of the legislation to see if any of the legislation had any effect. And we found that none of the legislation seemed to be associated with a beneficial effect in reducing firearms homicide in Canada. And so consequently, that got into the media because it was interesting to them at the time. And the long gun registry debate was going on at that point in time. So we was debated in Parliament and attended as a witness to some of the committees there. That was about it.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, that is definitely something I'm not able to do, the Reader's Digest condensed version. There's a lot more to the story than that. Definitely, those of us that have been around for quite some time know the extent of your involvement. I mean, you've been credited by some people with single-handedly dismantling the long gun registry by doing science and looking at the data and publishing a study that proved nothing. Which, as you said at the time, it's difficult to get published when your data proves that nothing happened. But that's basically what you were able to prove. All the legislation at the time had zero effect. So why are we doing it? Why are we spending billions of dollars on something that was only supposed to cost $2 million?
It was interesting after that because they switched their interest to suicide and dropped the homicide debate altogether.
Mm-hmm. That's what they do, right?
Since then, it hasn't been refuted. It's still out there, and there's been no other real studies that have come out afterwards to refute it.
Right, but it was done correctly, able to be peer-reviewed, unlike the Doctors for Gun Control that cite these 19 studies that were written by themselves kind of thing. So, yeah. Okay, and if I remember correctly, you were not initially into the firearms community. You kind of got pulled into it through your medical practice and some concerns about violating patient-doctor confidentiality, sort of, right? They wanted you to report on things that you didn't think you had to report on.
Well, I mean, the reason I got pulled into it initially was I was looking at the trauma numbers in Hamilton at our hospital and began to get interested in if any of that those legislations had an effect, because it was such an important issue at the time, and there was a lot of media debate, and people were publishing editorials saying it had saved thousands of lives, and we just weren't seeing any real changes per se that were that dramatic, nor were we seeing even dramatic numbers of shootings. So that's sort of how I became interested in it. And then it just took off on its own. Not really, not involved in the firearms community in terms of, being a sports shooter or really anything like that.
You do some hunting, though, do you not?
Well, considering I work almost all the time.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. So, okay, well, very good. Well, then let's transition into why we're here tonight, and that is to get a physician's perspective on COVID-19 and to ask you some questions and hopefully dispel some myths. But what caught our attention was the fact that you're doing what you do best, and that's basically studying the numbers and publishing some data based on what you're seeing and keeping track of those numbers through graphs on your Facebook profile. So we'll dig into that. But first, let's start off with some general topic questions that some people may still need to have answered. And can you explain to us what the difference between COVID or how COVID-19 is different from influenza?
Well, I mean, basically, it's just a different type of virus, but they're both RNA viruses. So your body uses a mechanism to reproduce them in your cells. They both get reproduced the same way, and there's some similarities. There's some differences. We think the mortality rate for COVID is higher than influenza, but how much higher, we're not quite sure, and that's possibly related to previous exposure and previous immunity to the various strains of influenza. But some of the other differences are pretty scientific about how it enters the body. Influenza uses different set receptors in your cells to get in than the COVID virus does. But they kind of function in the same way in that they're both sneaky. People have probably heard about SARS, I'm sure. And the difference between SARS and COVID, even though it being the same coronavirus, is that SARS, you weren't contagious until after you showed symptoms. So you could be isolated. You could tell that you were coming, basically, and isolate you, and you wouldn't spread it around, even though it spreads in the same rate as theoretically as the COVID-19. But with COVID, it hides. So it's like influenza, where you may sort of be, have almost no symptoms, or symptoms you would typically ignore, like just feeling kind of tired, and you're infectious during that time. So you can spread it to a large number of people before you even realize that you've done it. And so in that way, it's somewhat similar, but we think it's more deadly, and probably because our bodies aren't used to it. We haven't been exposed to various forms of it before. It also can cause this thing where your body itself starts spiraling out of control, your immune system. And it's called a cytokine release. And basically what happens is your immune cells start eating your own body cells, and that causes this damage to your lungs. And this thing called ARDS, which is the sort of end stage of COVID in terms of the people that die, where their lungs basically eat themselves and basically can no longer function. Influenza can do that, but it doesn't seem to do that as often as COVID does. Though, I mean, any practicing physician who practices in the emergency department has seen cases of influenza where even in a young person it didn't go well. It's rare, but it happens. And so some similarities, some differences. I don't want to get too scientific where people just sort of zone out. So
Sure.
we'll do it there.
Can you continue to compare and contrast some more between H1N1 and SARS as far as the way they spread, the way we responded, and the death rates?
Well, the problem is some of the way we record data. So right now we're really zoned in on who's dying of COVID, and even different countries are recording it differently. So in Italy, for example, anyone who has tested positive for the virus and they die, even if they die of a heart attack or something else, they will still die and be considered a COVID death. Whereas in Germany, the person would be considered to have died of a heart attack, whether the COVID virus was there or not. With influenza, we don't do a lot of testing, so what we're doing is these snapshots, and then we're estimating. And so there may only be about 3,000 influenza deaths in Canada a year. The number might actually be a lot higher if we tested more. And when we record a patient's death, the cause of death, if it's something like heart disease and a heart attack, we'll record it as that, even if the patient may have had influenza or pneumonia, or we may record it together. It might not get recorded. So the data itself is kind of inaccurate, and therefore it's hard to compare. We don't know. I mean, we think that there's maybe 600,000 influenza deaths a year in the entire world. Those are all estimates. Those are based on sort of like, it's like doing a survey, like a political survey. You take a snapshot and then you extrapolate or make calculations to make your overall estimate. And the smaller your sample and the larger the population, the 4 billion people in the world, the bigger error there is in your calculation. So to answer your question, we kind of really don't know, and we're sort of learning as we go here with this. And so
Right.
I think a lot of the numbers are going to be wrong initially.
H1N1 is not that old. SARS is not that old. So that's why, people are immediately drawing on that experience. Hey, we didn't react like this for SARS. We didn't react like this for H1N1, and this many people died. And you keep hearing different numbers every time it's brought up. So there's that argument about, are we overreacting or are we underreacting based on how we reacted to those two? Can I even call them pandemics?
Yeah, I mean, with SARS, as I've said, the reason it didn't kill as many people as it could, because it was mortality rate for SARS is pretty high, is because it was easy to isolate those people. Anytime someone looked sick, we put them in a box. H1N1, we do have immunity to influenza, and so we think that's why, because we were immune to another form of it, why it didn't cause as many deaths and the pandemic wasn't as dramatic, was because it sort of may have been overestimated in terms of the number of deaths it was going to cause, and the immunity that we have to it probably limited those deaths. Still, in Italy, during the H1N1 pandemic in 2009, a couple thousand people did die, and so it's not like it wasn't, just a little thing. It caused a lot of trouble there. We're used to, our hospitals are set up, we function almost at 100% capacity, and we're used to these sort of stable levels every year of things. And what we've done is we've added another new virus on top of that. And so that's why we're getting a bit overwhelmed in some places, is because we're not used to those levels. And if we were used to it, if we had the systems there, it may not have been as big a deal as people are making it out to be. There's been a wide overestimation of deaths. I mean, I still see sometimes people calculating death rates of millions of Canadians from COVID, and those numbers don't make any sense.
Yeah.
Okay, let's. We talked about how you can transmit it, even though you're not showing symptoms. How is it transmitted?
So it's transmitted by droplet. So when we say droplet precautions, we mean things like if you saliva. So the virus lives in your oral pharynx or in the back of your throat, and in your spit, if you spit it out, or if you cough on somebody, or if you touch your hands to your mouth and then shake hands, and then that person touches their hands to their mouth, it enters through these receptors in the lungs. So it goes all the way down into your lungs and then gets inside these receptors in those cells and then gets taken up. And influenza kind of works the same way as that. It can also get inside your digestive system and be taken up by the cells inside your intestines, because they're the same kind of cells that are inside your lungs.
Do we know how long it lives on surfaces, if at all, and can it be transmitted that way? Someone coughed and some droplets landed on a table or a railing or something, and I touch it, and then I touch my mouth. Is that a risk?
Yeah, that would be a risk. It depends how long it's been there. So I don't think we have good numbers for that either. There's some studies that are showing that it can last, a couple days on like a table or a door handle. It depends on the material. Copper kills a lot of viruses and bacteria, so that kind of surface wouldn't last as long. Depends also on what it's contained in. So if it's contained in your saliva, it might actually last longer and be more transmissible that way. Whereas if it was sort of dry, it would desiccate and not last as long. So, I mean, some estimates are saying a day or 2 days. There's wide estimates going out there, 7 or 8 days. I doubt those. Also, the humidity in the air and the sunlight something gets also can change those numbers. So, if you wash your hands, I mean, it's not unless you're going around licking door handles and things like that. If you wash your hands, you're generally doing yourself a favor.
Yeah, so it's to remember to wash them in situations that we take for granted. I go into my mailbox, I get my mail, I pick a package up off the front step. I don't know if the person who dropped that mail off is contagious or not. So when I bring that mail in, should I be wiping it down and then washing my hands as well?
Unless your mailman really doesn't like you, shouldn't be licking your mail. But I think just washing your hands is fine. I don't think you have to put your mail under a UV light and then sterilize it with alcohol. Yeah. I think that's probably taking it a little bit to the extreme.
Okay. Yeah, don't lick your mail. All right. So how deadly is it? Is there an age group that's more at risk if they get it? Are we going to lose Kelly? Kelly's mid-century. If she gets it, is she gone? Where I will live? How does this work?
Well, she's lucky that she's a woman because women survive more than men.
Oh.
I will hang that over his head. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So to answer your question, for young people, it appears they're very safe. There's been a large number now of epidemiological studies, mostly in China, but also in other countries now, which shows that young people, their risk of mortality from this is around 0.2%. It's pretty low. Probably lower than that. Those numbers are based on the number of tests that we do, and we think that the actual number of infections in the community is a lot more. So the more infections there are, and the lower that number is going to be. And that number is maybe 5 or 6 times more than influenza. Whereas if you're elderly and you have a lot of comorbidities, by that I would mean you're a smoker, you have lung disease, if you have heart disease, your risk of mortality is a lot higher. We're looking at numbers of around 14%, though I've seen other numbers of around 7% from a large study that was done in China, which seemed pretty accurate. So, I mean, you don't want to get this if you're older. It's a little bit different from some of the other viruses. The Spanish flu seemed to take out, influenza seems to take out young people. And the reason we think that it did that, it primarily targeted that age group, is that the older people had already developed immunity to another strain of influenza earlier, and that gave them immunity to it, whereas younger people, they didn't have that built up. So I suspect there's a lot of other factors as well involved in this, but just your ability to fight it off cognitively, it makes sense. The older you are, the more frail you are, the less ability you probably have to last on a ventilator, to last in the ICU before something else kills you. If you look at the data from Italy, the people that are dying, they have significant comorbidities. And so they're saying things like 99% of the people in Italy died of something else, whether it's a heart attack, another co-infection, another bacterial pneumonia, lung disease. So there's all kinds of things that are factoring into this. If you're healthy and you're older, you're probably going to have a much lower risk of dying than someone who is younger but has a lot of comorbidities, bad lungs from smoking or lung disease, or a weak immune system from immunocompromised issues. So it's variable. It's a number. The individual patient, it might look actually a lot different.
So then if someone does get it, how is it treated? Are they treating it with antiviral drugs or just respirators? What's the treatment like?
So we don't have any accepted treatments right now. There's talk about chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine. There's a number of, I'm not going to name them, but there's a number of things that interfere with the ability of the virus to reproduce. There are things that can dampen down your immune system. If you remember earlier, I was talking about the cytokine storm. So there's a way of interfering with that storm. It might not degrade your lungs if you develop that. A variety of different medications that are going to be studied. We're conducting a study at McMaster. After this, I'm going to have to go look through it and hopefully approve it for Canada here. So a number of universities are going to be looking at patients, and they're going to try a number of different medications. One is one of these blockers that interferes with the reproduction of the virus. Another one is chloroquine, so you can look at that as well. So right now, most of the patients being treated aren't getting anything more than oxygen, or if they need assistance with ventilation, they'll be getting intubated and ventilated. And that's it. We're letting the body fight it at this point.
The good ventilated. Okay. Peak. People talk about peaks all the time. Any speculation as to when we can expect to see a peak here in Canada? Maybe specifically, you've been tracking Ontario numbers. Have you been able to extrapolate any predictions based on Italy or China when it comes to a peak?
So saying anything about Canada right now, I think, is probably premature. If we look at some of the other places, we're probably looking at 2-3 weeks to see a peak, or even 4. And when we come out of this right now is hard to say. I'm tracking the Ontario numbers, but right now the numbers are so small, and we've only got a few days worth. I think about 10 days or so, really. So it's hard to say anything from that. Once we start to, what you're going to look for, and you're not looking at total numbers, what you want to look at is the rate of change. So you're looking at the daily rate of change, daily rate of growth, and the daily rate of deaths. And when that number that rate of change starts to fall, that's when you start to see it peak out. And so I just put up a calculation for Italy the other day. And I think we're seeing the peak there. And probably it'll start peaking over the next week and hopefully start declining. And unless, of course, there's another breakout, or another area gets a pandemic, a local pandemic. But if all goes well, you'll see it starting to slow down. That's what you're looking at, and then you're applying some mathematical models to it, things called logistic and gamma distributions, because it kind of reflects the way the virus spreads based on other viral spreads, influenza and other viruses, and you try and apply that to the model, and then using that, you can try and predict when the peak is, basically.
Okay. So it's been discussed a lot, but I don't think it can be overstated. Can you go through some of the things that people should be doing in order to avoid becoming infected?
I think the most important thing anyone can do, and I actually haven't heard it stated a lot, and I think it should be, is that elderly people or people who have weak immune systems need to isolate themselves. It's pretty obvious. If you aren't around anyone who's infected, you're not going to get infected.
Right.
If we do that alone, a lot of the models show that can make a huge difference in mortality rates and death rates, because it's affecting the older people. If you isolate them, get them out of the system, they won't be infected. The death rates will go down. Whereas most young people, they can probably go to Florida, have a beach party. As long as they go home and isolate themselves, probably not many people are going to be affected. So I think that's the main thing that we need to do. We really need to say that. So if you know people that are older, your parents, other people that in your community, you should probably not go visit them. Isolate yourself from them, and help them by delivering groceries and other essentials so that they don't have to go out to the community. And that estimations from Imperial College in Britain, some of the best modelers, they show that can decrease the death rate alone by around 50%. So that's a huge, huge decrease, a huge impact. Things like closing the schools, much smaller decline in the death rates and spread. Obviously, social isolation is important, and that can reduce the rates of spread too as well, somewhere around 30%. So all those things can have a large impact. I mean, you have to balance this with economic necessities. This is going to have a huge impact on the economy. It already has,
Mm.
and so it's a moral and ethical and economic debate dilemma. I think we're going to start seeing some more targeted strategies, more likely isolation of elderly, allowing people to go on, workers that work in retirement and long-term care homes, allowing them to go on vacation and then come back without quarantining themselves. I think that's going to, in retrospect, is going to look like a big failure. And so, I mean, once we see an outbreak in long-term care, that's really when we start seeing the patients come in.
Yeah, the Quarantine Act was enacted today. Why does Quebec have such high numbers? Is it because they're testing more than the rest of us, or is it because they weren't social distancing or isolating like they were supposed to? Any thoughts on the Quebec numbers?
Hard to say.
Are they testing more than the rest of us?
I think Ontario is doing testing pretty much up there the same rate as all the other provinces. I think Quebec's somewhat similar, so it's hard to say what exactly is going on there. And we're going to see probably shifts in the graphs as well, because when testing kind of ramps up in a certain area, then you'll get more patients. So if a local area has more of a pandemic, so if a nursing home has a breakout, you're going to start testing all those people in the home. You're going to test their contacts, and so you will see shifts as well occur. Testing, like I said before, testing, it's hard to say what it means. As you say, places could be testing more. Places could be using a more stringent determination of whether they're going to test somebody. You really have to look at the rate of increase rather than the numbers. And the numbers of deaths, as I said, is even kind of confusing as well. So really, we want to look at rates. So if a place tests the same way they always test, then the rate is going to mean something.
Well, that's a perfect segue into the next topic, which is the rates of increase. Every couple of days, you are publishing data in graph form based on the numbers in Ontario, the rate of increase specifically. What are those numbers telling you so far?
Numbers are telling me that we're on the what I call the exponential part of the curve. So it's the rate of increase is around 20% every day, around that roughly. And so we aren't seeing a decrease yet in those rates. And that rate of increase it's higher than it's high. It's not as high as what we saw in Italy.
So explain that 20%. Does that mean like tomorrow you'll have 20% more cases than you have today?
Yeah, that's what that means.
That's scary.
So, and if you look at other countries, Italy was getting around 38% increases a day, whereas Korea was getting tiny increases. South Korea, where 11 or 10. And so the question is, why are we getting so many increases? Is it testing? Is testing broadened? Are we doing things wrong? Are we not isolating ourselves as much as we should be? I think the retrospectoscope will tell us a lot, but right now it could just be that some of the tests are making it through the lab faster, and that could all it may mean. There's a lot of different factors there, but we're going to track it over a period of time and not just rely on 1 or 2 days worth of data, right?
How many days are you in now? When did you start that you were able to come up with this 20% a day? When did you start publishing the graphs?
So I started, I can get that for you. I started roughly on the 8th is when I started looking at it, and that was because we didn't have very many cases at that point in time, and
Right.
so it's the 26th now. So that's been a few weeks.
Hmm. Okay, so we talked about when we think we might see a peak. Can you kind of take a guess as to when you may think we get back to normal? Life goes on. We can stop self-isolating. This thing is beat. You hear
Well,
such crazy numbers all over the place.
it depends. Like we talked about earlier. There's a lot of unknowns here. I read a couple studies now, and the Imperial College has changed their study as well and accepted this, where Dr. Gupta, an epidemiologist in Britain, she thinks that around 50% of us have already been exposed, and we've already gone through this, and we're walking around with herd immunity right now. And the modelers in the Imperial College seem to have accepted that today, that there's probably a lot more herd immunity out there than we thought. Based on some of my models, we're looking around the 26th of April for sort of the peak for us in Ontario if things stay the same way they are now. But you could get second, third, fourth spikes or pandemics. As soon as you let people out of isolation, or as soon as people get comfortable, which I imagine will probably happen first, there's going to be more people that get infected, right? So you can get another spike. And some people are saying we may have to have several rounds of this lockdown. And it could be damaging it'd probably be really damaging to the economy, but it can also be damaging to patients. We're not doing things that we normally do right now. So we're not doing elective operations. And if you're waiting for a hip, that's a big deal. There's mortality with that because you're not mobile. You're sitting around. You're getting weak, and then you get pneumonia or you fall down. So those things are associated with mortality. We're not doing our cardiac testing is decreased. We're not running a lot of our cardiac testing places to determine whether people have heart disease and blockages. So exercise stress testing, that's shutting down. So all those things that we're not doing right now, we're not doing colonoscopies where we're looking for cancer in the bowel. All those things that being shut down, that's going to affect people as well. And there's that underlying mortality. So the more lockdown we do, the more other deaths are occurring.
Yeah, we're getting rid of our early detection system.
Well,
That's right.
Which we have for a reason.
Think of everyone sitting at home, not doing any exercise, eating crappy food, and getting fatter, and getting more in risk for heart failure and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if a few months is going to change much, but I suppose the longer this goes on, the worse it could get. And people will develop habits. They won't. People are going to lose their jobs. Probably going to see a lot of small businesses shut down. A lot of people have their life savings invested in their small business. This is not a little thing.
Yeah.
And so
suicide rates are already on the rise.
You're going to see suicide increase as well. That's where I was getting with that too. So this is not a little thing. People can go on Facebook and virtue signal about how good they are at isolating themselves. But I mean, it's easy for some people if you got a good job or
the ability to stay at home and work from home, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
My heart goes out to those people that don't, and there's a lot of people out there that don't have that ability, and they're going to be out. They're going to come out and they're going to start doing what they have to do to live.
Yep.
So, I mean, people make fun of Donald Trump, but you did have a good point where some tough decisions are going to have to be made, how we're going to balance this. And I don't really hear a lot of people talking about that. And I think there's several things we're going to look back at in this. One is we're going to look back and there's going to be a lot of studies questioning, did we do the right thing? Did we cause more damage? Did we hurt people even more? Should there have been other ways to do it, such as locking down long-term cares, isolating the elderly, that kind of thing. As well as, did we harm other people medically because they're not getting their procedures done, and can we keep this going? Or did it even have much an effect? It may not even have had an effect or a significant effect because people just kept working anyway. It's going to generate a lot of academic interest, probably a lot of arguments.
Yep.
Hindsight's always
Oh, well,
2020. We'll have all the answers when it's done, of course.
We'll have all those. Well, people still argue. Doesn't matter. Even if
Yep.
someone's going to have a study proving something.
Well, I mean, the
Speaking
interesting thing is that we've got kind of a natural experiment happening here where different countries are doing very different things. We're going to be able to see which ones take, at the very least, the easy to measure stuff will be how much economic damage each of these countries did to themselves with the measures that they chose to put in place, right? And I think that's going to be one thing that we're going to be able to take a look at and say, Denmark did this, Canada did that, the U.S. did that. Who came out of this thing and had an economy that was completely devastated? What was their unemployment like afterwards? What was the suicide rates in each of these countries? And at least we'll be able to get that out of it, because that damage is incredible right now.
I like the way you think in terms of the potential studies. A lot of people are looking at the United States as a possible sort of mini testing ground for this, because some states are doing entirely different things than other states.
Yeah.
So,
what's the growth rate in the U.S. right now? It seems
high.
Crazy.
I think,
but their population density is quite high too.
I think it's around 30%. But then also look at the United States, right?
Yeah.
This is the most powerful, largest country in the world, where people are flying everywhere, managing overseas businesses. So you got all these people landing in New York and Los Angeles, and they're all coming from all different parts in the world. Hundreds of these people, and so it's like they got a meteor shower of infected people landing in their country, and so it's gonna blow up. I don't think we're gonna see the astronomical death rates that people are talking about. It's definitely gonna be significant, though.
What's the recovery rate? So people that are getting it, what's the percentage for recovery rate? Because we're always talking about death rate. Let's talk about something,
Happy.
So happy. Well, it's not happy, but let's talk a little bit about the recovery rate.
Well, it totally depends. So most people don't even notice much at all. It's like getting the influenza, right? You'll feel tired afterwards, a little bit of extra, coughing, post-infectious cough that goes on for a few weeks or months, and that's it. And that's the vast majority of people. Even elderly people that get it, the vast majority will be fine and will have no long-term consequences that we know of. The question is, those people, I think your question might be those people that end up in the ICU or... Yeah.
Those more serious cases.
Right. So we don't know. About 67% of people die who enter the ICU. So that's high. And the reason they're getting there is because of ARDS, which is this disease in the lungs where the lungs start breaking down. And people that come out of that are seriously affected generally. They have poor lung capacity, so their exercise tolerance goes down significantly. Takes them sometimes months to recover. Sometimes they never do. Their lungs can be permanently scarred. Most people who get the lung scarring that you're seeing, a large percentage of those are fine. That scarring goes away. But some people are left with permanent scars, something called pulmonary artery hypertension, where the blood is like going through a high pressure area when it tries to get into the lungs, so it causes secondary back up in the heart, and then heart disease afterwards. So all these things, if you end up in the ICU, you're probably looking at going to be a long road to recovery. Still a good thing, but it's not an easy thing, and we still don't know. A lot of the studies from China show that people that do get out of the ICU, they tend to do well, but I've seen a lot of cases that end up with this lung damage who end up with long-term consequences. I mean, they can still have a quality of life, they can still live at home, but they will get short of breath earlier, and if they get another infection, they're more at risk for damage or death.
You talked about herd immunity. Chances are that, in some areas, 50% of the population's already been exposed. Can you get it twice? If I get it, I'm hospitalized, I do the whole respirator thing, I recover, I come out of the ICU. Am I good to go from now on, or can I get it a second time?
So we're hearing a lot about that, and my suspicion is it's got to do with what we call a false negative test. So in order to be considered recovered from this virus, you have to have two tests now for this. It's a PCR, it's a type of reproduction test, and they both have to be negative, which means you don't have it any longer living in you. The problem is there's something called a false negative rate, where a test might say it's negative, but you really still have it. And so if that rate is high, someone can tell you that you don't have it anymore, but you might actually do. And probably the viral load or the amount of virus in you is very low, and so the test will say it's negative even though it's not. And then the person might get sick again because the virus starts reproducing and making them unwell. The other question is whether it mutates, and it changes its some of the things that the body uses called epitopes that it uses to identify the virus, and so then starts growing out of control again because it's mutated, so because the body can't no longer identify it. My suspicion is what we're seeing with these reoccurrences is the false negative testing. I think you will be able to get this again. It'll be a different strain like influenza, and there will be a vaccine for it in the future, and we'll be getting influenza and COVID vaccine as well. But I think it's too early to say that we're seeing, in one person have it mutate that dramatically, and then they get reinfected. Maybe there's one or two, but I would think that would be pretty low possibility.
Okay. How is is there a legitimate, credible concern right now with the supply of PPEs in the country and in the hospitals? I heard today that in February, Trudeau sent, I forget the number, but he sent PPE supplies to China, the country that makes them, that we buy them from. He gave some of our supplies back to them. So
Yeah.
did that put us in jeopardy? Are our numbers fine? Are we producing them? Where are we with that?
So right now, there are some hospitals that did actually run. So there's several different forms of PPE. We use surgical masks just for interacting. So I'm going to see you as a patient where you're just sitting there. We wear a surgical mask, and then we wear a face shield and a gown. And then there's N95 masks, and we only use those when we're going to intubate somebody. That is when we're going to put them on the ventilator. And so the reason we use the N95 is because the virus aerosolizes, gets in the air when you do that kind of procedure, and then you could get it all over your body and then get infected. And so we use those N95s to keep from breathing it in. So we're running out of the surgical masks. There were some hospitals that actually did run out in our area, and of course supplies were shifted to them. But if no one shifted them, the supplies, they would have run out. We are trying to conserve supplies, so we're reusing supplies. We're reusing surgical masks. The data, trying to get the numbers. I've asked for them several times, and the last time I asked for them, I was told everything was fine, and then a week later, I was informed that we were running out. So at the rate we were going, the rate of use. Whether Trudeau added to that by sending 16 tons of supplies to China, I don't know, because I don't have that data specifically. May have done it to simply Hope that they will return the favor when our time comes. We'll see.
Our time is now.
I can't really answer that question. What I can say is, if you have them at home, for whatever reason, you don't need them. You don't need them to go
Okay.
on the subway. You don't need them to go to the grocery stores. Donate them to the hospital, because if they don't have them there, they're not going to. People aren't going to see patients. People, doctors, nurses, they're going to drop out. They're going to not show up if they don't have protection, and we don't want that situation happening. Ontario had stored a large supply of this equipment post SARS. Threw a lot of it away several years ago, and some of the stuff we have now has expired. So the masks themselves, they don't expire, but the elastic band around it does. You know how elastic bands get brittle as they get
They
older.
dry out. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's the issue there. So they tell me now that we've been able to secure a large number of masks. We'll see. What I'm seeing on the ground is that we're still conserving. And the community has really stepped up. A lot of companies have donated masks to our hospital and to hospitals in the area. General population has. So it's good to see that happening. There's no reason that anyone needs to have them at home, per se. I mean, and you certainly don't need a lot if you're going to have them. If you maintain a good distance away from other people, you're not going to get, you basically have to, someone has to cough right in your face and you have to breathe it in. And as long as you maintain a good distance, you're fine. The rate of spread the chance of spread, from one person to another is only 1% to 2%. So it's pretty low. Not like if you're just around a person in the same room, you're going to get it. It takes quite a bit of effort. So stop licking door handles. Or
Fine. And windows too, I suppose.
windows, yeah, that's not how you clean them.
Man, this is tough. All right. This has been awesome, super informative. Is there anything, Kelly or Adriel, that you guys want to bring up before we let the doctor get back to work?
No, I think nothing serious, at least.
No.
Okay.
I actually had a whole bunch of questions for you, and through the whole entire thing, it actually you answered all of them. So thank you for doing that.
Perfect.
No problem.
All right. Adriel, you sure you don't want to ask him any zombie-related questions? I will allow it. Now's your chance. No?
Yeah, a zombie invasion was what I asked for, not a virus infection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do we get this?
Yeah.
So
Which team would Trevor play on? The zombie team or the human team?
Both,
yeah.
he plays both
Eventually.
sides. Yeah, he's
Sides,
a guy that likes
Yeah.
both sides. Play both sides
Yep.
of the table. Yeah.
I can see
I'm the first one to put the guts on and blend in.
that.
Oh, Dr. Langman, thank you so much for making time in your busy schedule to join us tonight and help put some information out there, dispel some myths, and put our listeners' minds at ease. It means a tremendous amount, and we really appreciate your time. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks a lot.
Stay safe and keep fighting the good fight.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks again to Dr. Colin Langman for coming on to dispel some myths and educate us and answer some questions. And he is a very modest individual and downplays the significant impact he had on the firearms community and industry here in Canada. Not the industry so much, but the firearms community. Just super guy, and the fact that he was able to make himself available to us is phenomenal, because he is a busy man. So thank you again. I really
busy.
appreciate it. Listener feedback is sponsored by Armory DC Gunsmith. Armory DC Gunsmith is a full-service gunsmith who specializes in firearm refinishing. He offers hot blowing, parkerizing, Cerakote finishes, as well as wood refinishing. Check out the online inventory of new and used guns, firearms, accessories, optics, and more at www.dcgunsmith.ca. You can also follow him on Instagram and Facebook. There's lots of stuff in stock. Still on sale. There's Boogaloo ammo in there. There's lots of surplus 7.62 by 39, newly manufactured 308.
You're gonna get us flagged even more by saying Boogaloo so many times on the show. I swear that is gonna get us flagged before anything else. Even if we have to say like the big igloo or something like that, or you just keep moving it to another what do you call euphemism or another word for it, and just
It's
keep
not a
going.
euphemism. Nope.
We got to
Nope.
keep ahead of
All
them.
right.
Well, I'm not a school teacher. I
Stop
don't know
saying
these words.
boogaloo. Okay.
Is it an
Look, I'm
adjective?
wearing my Hawaiian
Adverb?
shirt. Wait,
Okay, how many times have you said it in the past 2 minutes?
don't care.
Uh,
Boogaloo, 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 boogaloo. Boogity, boogity, boogity.
Electric Boogaloo Part 2.
Right. So anyway, he's got Typhoons and Darias and Benelli M4 clones in there. You can't go into the store. You can purchase online, pick your order up at the door, or you can purchase online, have it shipped. You can email, you can Facebook. So all kinds of ways to get a hold of them. And because there's no customers coming in the store, gunsmithing jobs are still a thing that's happening. He's back there working all day doing gunsmithing work. So if you got something in there, it's getting done. If you want to ship something, Canada Post is still shipping, so you can ship your gun there and get it worked on and have it shipped back. So the first one, Kelly would like to read this.
No,
It's
I
from
don't,
Spencer the
actually.
Whale. All right,
No,
then,
I'm
Adriel,
good.
take it
I'm good,
away.
thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Quite welcome.
From Spencer.
Does he laugh when we fight over who wants to read his emails? Because they're not
think he
ginger
does.
snap emails. Like, they're well written. They're just
Just long.
significant. They're like him. They're big.
It's a lot of reading in there. Hey guys,
Yep, give her.
it's been a while, but I thought I'd try and catch up a bit while I'm in house arrest, aka mandatory telecommuting. I never thought I would miss the Atlanta commute, but after a week and a half of being forced to shelter in place, you start to miss the strangest things. Anyway, on to the good stuff. Since my New Year's resolution was to become less whale-like, I told myself I wouldn't buy any new firearms in 2020 until I lost 50 pounds.
Cool.
Lucky for me, December 31st was a Tuesday, and I had the day off. I went to the gun store to buy a Smith & Wesson 610, a very cool 10mm revolver they had on sale. That's when I saw my first Tavor 7 in the wild. They had been delayed for almost a year after being announced due to some undisclosed issues they had with the first batch of them, but they were on the shelves now. After all the trouble I had with the Desert Tech MDR I picked up in 2019, the last thing I needed was another 308 bullpup with a history of problems. So of course I picked it up then and there. Side by side, the Desert Tech is the nicer rifle, at least in the looks department. The Tavor is a lot blockier, and the ergonomics are slightly worse than the MDR in some ways. One way the Tavor beats the MDR is the location of the gas regulator. The adjustment for the Tavor is easily accessible on the front of the gun, while the MDR is buried under the handguard. They both have a standard AR-style mag catches, but the bolt release on the Tavor is different and takes a little getting used to. They are both ambidextrous guns, but the MDR has duplicates of all the controls, including the charging handle, while the Tavor requires a field strip to swap that from side to side. The MDR can also change which side it ejects from just by swapping the ejection port covers, while you have to take the Tavor down to do the same procedure on it. The bolt release on the Tavor is a paddle just in front of the magwell, which is different but works well for either hand. One thing that's worlds apart is the basic reliability. The MDR gave me fits when I first got it. I don't think I made it through 10 rounds at a time without it jamming up. Since I wasn't alone with this issue, Desert Tech came up with a series of fixes, and after sending the gun back to them, it's running like a champ now. Still, it took them roughly 4 months to get their design to actually work in the real world and get existing guns fixed. My experience with the Tavor was completely the opposite. I took it out of the box, packed up a dozen types of milsurp and commercial ammo, and took it to the range. It performed flawlessly, working with every type of ammo I fed it. The only ammo it wouldn't cycle was some subsonic 308 that I had intended for bolt guns, which I hadn't expected to work anyway. The MDR got its new reliability by being seriously overgassed. This extra force is needed to power the forward ejection system reliably. Unfortunately, this makes it a problem with a suppressor since the gas literally pours out of every joint with each shot, even on the suppressor setting. I actually have an OSS low back pressure can ordered, but there's still a few months to go before I get the stamp. The Tavor is just fine with a suppressor though, and cycled all the various ammo I tried to shoot on the suppressed setting without a hiccup at all. Shooting the subsonic 308 through it was a hoot. You never really think of a 308 and quiet together, but it's actually a pretty good combo as long as you don't mind cycling the rifle manually. Overall, I'd say the Tavor is the better of the two rifles. It's definitely more reliable out of the box, and while it doesn't have all the whiz-bang features of the MDR, it's also $700 US cheaper, and if you want to run a suppressor, it's really the only choice between the two. There's lots more I could say, but you guys whine like little babies if I write more than a page or so I'll cut it off there. Stay healthy, from Spencer. P.S. Sorry, Trevor, but there's no Mr. Wyndham associated with Bushmaster or Wyndham weaponry. The original Bushmaster and the current Wyndham weaponry are located in Wyndham, Maine. The man
There
who
you
started
go.
both
Go
of them
figure.
was Richard Dyke. Some people just don't think when they name kids, do they? Yeah.
Dick Dyke. Nope.
Dick sold Bushmaster to Freedom Group for $70 million in 2006, then had to wait for 5 years due to a non-compete clause before he could start Wyndham. His stated goal was to bring back jobs to the area after Freedom Group moved manufacturing out to Remington, who has now shut down the brand entirely. Isn't that funny how some brands do that? They buy a brand because they think they're going to do stuff with it,
Keep
and
reading.
they just kill it.
No, keep reading.
Okay. Interestingly, he sold Bushmaster partly because one of their guns was used by the DC sniper who was shooting people on the highways around Washington.
Oh yeah.
The killer had stolen the gun from a sporting goods store, but somehow both Bushmaster and the gun store were held liable and had huge civil judgments assessed against them. This was one
Crazy.
of the reason gun companies and dealers got federal protection under the Lawful Commerce in Arms Act in 2005.
Yeah.
There is a great audiobook about the DC sniper shooting. If anyone's interested, just Google audiobook DC sniper.
Mhm.
Can't remember the name.
Awesome. Now we see Remington Outdoors, which inherited Bushmaster, closing the brand down because of the current lawsuit filed in Connecticut State Court trying to hold them responsible for the Sandy Hook massacre. Some things never change.
Yeah. So I had a lot of facts wrong with that story. I
That's
Heard them
about
for
par
pretty
for the show, though.
yeah, well,
People expect that.
I mean, I repeated what I was told from a very good source, someone who actually sells Wyndham. So, but maybe I got it wrong. But anyway, it's awesome that he wrote in with the with the facts. I don't
the
mind being
correction.
corrected at all.
we should put corrections at the
interesting.
start of the show. These are the corrections
Yeah,
from,
we
our,
should,
from our
eh?
preceding show. Here's what we said wrong.
editorial note. These are the things we got wrong last week. God, it would take more time than what I did this week in guns. All
Maybe it
right.
won't do.
So this one comes to us from Francis. It says, guys,
Oh no, you're leaving me.
you should change the name of the show to the Glock Fanboy Show. No
Oh,
mention
yeah.
of Ruger. Okay, so we did mention Ruger. Go back and listen. We talked about the SR9, Matthew having one, me having one. Adriel talked about the Ruger American. I see tons of great reviews for Canik, but you did not mention it. We also mentioned Canik. Smith & Wesson got a little discussion, but not the proportion to the number sold. So here's the thing. The topic was, in my opinion, what do I recommend as a first pistol? So we weren't going to talk about every pistol for the sake of talking about them. I was asked a poignant question. Trevor, what do you recommend for a first pistol? Lastly, you seem to say that being a top competitive shooter involves the right gun. Once again, go back and listen to the catalog of episodes. Myself being an instructor, Adriel assisting on courses that Matthew and I have instructed. We harp all the time that it's the mastering of the fundamentals that wins matches, not guns. So no, this whole thing about no practice, no talent. More practice with good coaching, shooting lots of matches, and lastly, equipment. So no, we don't believe that. We believe that coaching and mastering the fundamentals are what matters. And but again, that wasn't the topic. The topic wasn't about how to get good. The topic was, Trevor, what do you recommend for a first gun? Buying the best equipment is easy. Practice is hard. That's correct. I do not own a Glock, but I have shot a number of them, and the grip feels like a 1x3 board. And the triggers are various flavors of awful. Thanks, Francis. Yeah, you're not wrong about the ergonomics. They don't fit everybody. If they do fit you, they can be a great first gun. Remember, that's what the topic was.
And
In your opinion, is a good first gun?
and one of the things that new people don't know what a good grip even feels like. I think
That's right.
I think that too many people think that a first pistol is a personal decision, and it kind of is. But also, you kind of don't really know what you're doing, anyways. It'd be like
Mhm.
asking someone what should your first race car be, and people will be like, "Oh, I don't know. This one's got cup holders in the right spot, I guess. So I like this one." And
Pospy the other day, I was like, Mike, try the trigger I did on my CZ, and he's like, it's wasted on me, man. I haven't pulled enough pistol triggers to know what a good one feels like. And he's got a black badge and shoots matches.
Mhm.
So, case in point, Adriel, right? Like not just a new person doesn't always know. People they could possibly be around shooting longer than I have, but
Yeah.
hasn't had the pistol experience that I've had. It's just the way it goes.
Yeah. I think, I think that the reason for that show, or at least the thing that I ran into, was people asking about weird pistols for a first pistol, or ones that would just be objectively not as good or a lot more expensive for no performance benefit. Because that's what I've been seeing a lot in Reddit, is people saying, "Well, should I get one of these?" I'm going to name it specifically, Beretta 92 Extreme or something like that for IPSC.
X.
And
92X.
I was like, no, don't get that. Don't get that for IPSC. You can if you want, but you're going to be spending twice as much as a CZ Shadow, and it will shoot no better, and it may shoot worse.
Mm.
And I think that was the thing that I was trying to get across, is for new shooters, just get something plain and popular and consistent, and then sell it.
Yeah, and we didn't even really go at it specifically from a first pistol specifically for IPSC, did we?
No, we hit a couple of different ideas in there. We
Okay.
talked about 1911s, we talked about IPSC, we talked about a couple of different ideas there.
Yeah.
My suggestion is, Francis, go back and go back to the beginning of the podcast and start working your way through, because truly Trevor was a fanboy of Glock, and then he's changed his mind so much over the past 3 years.
But we've
6
always
years.
talked about training. Training is
42 years. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Training,
But-
training.
So here's how I feel about Glocks, though. Just
Yes.
in case anyone forgot. So
If you
Still like 'em.
if you had to use one in a combat scenario, you would choose a Glock.
Yeah.
They're lightweight, they have a high capacity, they're
Yeah,
super
can't-
reliable.
No safety. You can throw them, stomp on them.
Mhm.
They'll still work.
And your friends probably have Glocks too. So
but if I had a Glock 19
Mhm.
and a CZ P10, I would take the CZ P10.
Mm-hmm.
Better ergonomics, less 1x3.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if I didn't have a CZ P10, I'd be happy with a Glock 19. So, okay, Kelly,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
time.
Ginger snap, everybody.
His kid
Alright.
called me the other day. I'm not even
Okay.
kidding. Out of the blue, phone
She's so
rings,
cute.
and it's like, "Hey, it's one of the mini snaps." I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" That's awesome.
Was she born?
What she called for? Oh, she asked me some Oak Island stuff. They were watching Oak Island, so she called and asked me about Oak Island. Yeah, it was awesome.
Aw, his kids are adorable.
I know, it's like they're not even his.
Yeah, that's true.
I met the mom. They're definitely the moms.
All right, can I read this?
Oh, can you? Probably not.
Probably not. Okay. What is Cousin Flippin' Tarnation, Alabama, Betty Crocker, Miss Ducking, Betty White is up with the world today? 2 weeks off, and all my guns are built. Now I'm going to take them apart just to rebuild them again. Nothing else to do. Cerakote, don't like it. Well, sandblast and try again.
I know, it's
Yeah.
awesome. It's literally what you can do.
Glad I know the owner of Can Arms Coating. For all your Cerakote needs. That's www.
Don't even finish that sentence
canarms.com.
until he pays to be a sponsor. We have a sponsor who does refinishing.
He does a great job with it, by the way. Go and
Yes,
patronize Denis. Okay. I really hate having too many spare parts and not having enough of them to build another non-restricted 223 or a good old 308. I can't fit any more in my safe. And by the way, screw that 6.5 scene more. It can pound salt with all those man buns, buddies. Hate mail can go to manbunstrevor@campbellton.com.
Camp. Camba. Camba.
Campbellton.com. P.S. Which one of you should have a good dose of mushrooms? Oh my god. Also
Why?
from
Do you have any?
I don't know. Yeah, does he have any? Okay. So also from Ginger Snaps, under quarantine, and I smoked $20 worth of pot in 20 minutes and found out I have kids. Who knew? Check out Matt Best on Instagram with his new song. So let's just give me a second because I have to go down. Quarantine, drinking whiskey like a vaccine, wearing Lysol like sunscreen. Uses laugh my ass off. P.S. Remember, people are crazy. He is crazy.
Yeah.
He brings a smile to my face.
Oh,
That
yeah.
one was actually pretty easy to read compared to some of the other ones.
He's getting better.
I know.
Well, now that his kids are home, they can school him.
Yeah, or they can type
Probably
it
reading to
from.
him at night. Yeah. Okay, Adriel, the next one, please.
All right. Question. My SR-22 has this funny little barrel cradle in the handguard connected to the sling stud.
So the SR-22 is a Ruger semi-automatic 22 rifle that looks like an AR.
Okay. Barrel cradle in the handguard.
So what it is the front sling swivel stud is screwed into a block through the handguard, and the block it's screwed into is basically bigger than it needs to be and actually contacts the barrel.
Oh, interesting. Okay. He mentions here, I can apply a little pressure to the barrel and create a gap, so it's not epoxied on. What I'm getting at is the barrel isn't free-floated because of it. My buddy thinks it might be a measure to counteract barrel whip. Thoughts? I was just thinking of taking
there
it
is
out.
no barrel whip in a 22. That's my thought on that.
I think
no barrel whip in a
if
22.
he torqued on it as AKA Maple Seed with a sling, he's going to have some problems if that causes inconsistency.
Why you throw me under the bus?
Huh?
Why you throw me on the bus?
Oh. Am I throwing you under the bus right now?
AKA
I didn't think so.
No,
I
I'm
didn't think
saying
so. I
saying
didn't
if
think-
he runs a sling on that thing and he pulls on it and that
Okay, Adriel, the rest of the world understood.
I know. I understood too. Go ahead.
But he's
Sorry.
pulling down. In this case, Adriel, he'd have to be pushing up for it to matter the way that this thing is working. Pulling, I think, Adriel, if he did what you described, it would actually help because he'd be pulling the handguard away from the barrel and be pulling that block away from the barrel.
What I'm saying is that if the block is normally contacting the barrel and you pull it away, you're causing inconsistency. How much pressure
Right.
are you putting through the sling on that block?
Gotcha.
And is it consistent every
It
time?
might be.
Can't be.
Yeah.
It can't be.
Can't be. So I would lose the block altogether, replace it with just a nut on the front stud. In the photo, there's no sling attached, so I don't know if he uses a sling or not. Anyway, here's what you do is you go out and shoot some groups with it in there and then shoot some groups with it removed. I had a 9 to 12 inch bipod on the front of my Thompson Center Venture Predator 223, and it caused inconsistency in my groups big time. I took that sucker off the front of the stock, and my groups shrunk below MOA. So yeah, things hanging out the front can affect the accuracy. So shoot groups with it, remove it, shoot groups with it, removed, and whatever is best, go with that.
Yeah. And if you're going to shoot with a sling on, shoot it with the sling with a little bit of tension on it, and then try without. If you're because maybe we don't know, maybe he's not doing sling stuff with it, and he's not doing sling stuff with it. No sense worrying about it, right?
Right.
Yeah, he sent some excellent photos. They're in the body of the email, so you can go look at those at your convenience.
Leisure.
Yeah, at your leisure. All right. Very good. Thank you for the emails, everyone, even
Yeah, they
you
were good.
Ginger Snaps. If you would like to email the show, you could do so by sending it to slamfireradio@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear about what you did to get ready for the pandemic, how you're surviving isolation, if you're still working,
Eating
if you're a
chicken
truck driver, we love you.
You know, one thing
Uh,
about truck drivers though, their job is very easy these days because the traffic is
Nobody's
like
on the
nothing.
street.
Yeah.
Man, so I saw drone footage this morning or yesterday of Toronto, and it looks
Yeah.
like a ghost town.
I know, right?
You go in Campbellton right now, and it looks like business as usual. These people are just don't care. There's way too much traffic around Campbellton for a town that's supposed to be in emergency measures shutdown.
There's a little different. Toronto. There's a difference between even Toronto and Kingston. Kingston shut down, but Toronto as well. And the reason is because of the public transportation. But there's so many people, right? That people are starting. That's why.
Question:
What?
Is public transportation in either of those cities closed?
Yeah, I don't know if.
So GO trains aren't running.
I don't know
that
if they
stuff
are.
that stuff has to be running because how do you get to the
No.
grocery store if you don't have a car?
Yeah. But there's nobody on them. Like,
Okay, and
Yeah.
then in Halifax, you get people riding them for fun. Idiots.
yeah, it's weird. But I did notice that people were actually the toilet paper whole thing that there's none in Toronto before anyplace else.
There's still none here.
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
I got some if you need. Send it to you.
Okay, podcast app reviews. So this is something we get increasingly rarely because leaving an app review or review for us on your app is you got to work for it. So when you do actually take the trouble to figure out how to do it and do it, we appreciate it. So this one comes to us from the author J.W. Hetherington. And it's from iTunes, I believe, the Canadian version of iTunes. 5 stars. Title: Shooter ready. Stand by. Beep. Review: The podcast is so hot it may make you AD. No DQs here, but good old-fashioned Canadian Firearms Radio. Thanks everyone, or thanks for everything you do. Keep up the good work. Aw, awesome. That was good. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Shout outs. I have some shout outs, man. I must have been in some hell of a tizzy when we did our first Corona'd episode. I know I spoke very freely about my state of mind and current situation, and a ton of people have reached out to check in on me and asked me if I was okay and if I needed anything, and don't stress, and thanks for the extra episodes. And so all kinds of feedback. We've received good feedback on doing extra episodes, and people are appreciative because they're consuming a lot of podcast content right now, while they're doing other things. So they appreciate the fact that we're making extra content. We will continue to make extra content. And then some people were just wondering if I was cracking up. And I am certainly not cracking up. I am keeping very busy and am relaxing more and more every day. Actually, I think venting helped. And but to all of you who sent text and Facebook messages, you know who you are. And thanks for taking the time, man. It's awesome. Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Yep, I got a couple. So I wanted to say also thank you to everybody who thought I had the virus and reached out to me because I was not. There was actually people doing it. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. As I said, I wanted to say thank you to Pat Grindell for the ghost poster. Fantastic. I love it, by the way. And so one of the things that I got in the mail that I forgot to talk about, and I'm wearing it tonight. So can everybody see it here?
Hold on.
Wait.
What?
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this is a new shirt I got in the mail. See what it says?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Got
I love it.
guns.
Love it.
So, Odell Engineering, who manufactures Canuck,
Well,
Phil
they
Odell.
don't manufacture Canuck. They
Distribute.
They distribute.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Are you good?
Yeah, as long as you don't make mistakes, I'm good. If you make mistakes, I'll let you know.
Everybody else, you're welcome to write in Trevor anytime he makes a mistake. Just like actually.
Absolutely.
Spencer
How
did.
else am I going to
Okay.
learn if I don't get corrected?
All right. So Phil Odell, who is Odell Engineering, who distributes Canuck. This is their new T-shirt. Got guns. So it's the
Based
play
on
on
the
the
Got Milk,
Got Milk,
slogan from
right.
20 years ago.
right.
But yeah, it's good.
So fantastic. I love it. Kelly
I love it too.
Kincaid also got one as well. So we're going to get some pictures taken and post that.
Awesome.
My favorite part of the Canuck logo is the broad arrow stamp at the end, which was marked on all of our military
Yep.
equipment in World
Right
War
there.
II. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. So I also wore my Canuck hat as well. So I just wanted to say thank you to Phil. Phil is a fantastic support of the firearms community. I just want everybody to know that. He really, really is. So thank you.
He is.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's putting
Cool.
his money where his mouth is. Is that? Yeah, that's how you say that.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay.
You guys had people like reaching out to you, wondering about you guys and like worried, and I had video gamers reaching out to me, like, hey, you want to play that video game? I had a couple of people reach out and like, yeah, you should. Have you thought about streaming? It's like, no, I suck. I'm like, I'm awful. No one wants to watch me wander out
Actually,
into the
they
middle
do
of the
wanna-
field and get
No.
wasted right away, and just like,
That's what they want to see.
This is
so
exactly what
I'm so
happened
glad
to
I
him today.
I spent 15 minutes setting up this loadout just so I could like walk out and get domed in like 5 minutes of gameplay. I'll tell you what. I'll stream one of my matches one of these nights here, and it's going to be hilariously bad.
Oh, we'll do it when I'm on there too, and it'll be even worse. Like, remember the last console I owned was a PS2 10 years ago. And before that, it was a PS1 when they first came out. Yeah, I gamed quite a bit when I had my PS1, but I'm more.
I'm learning so much about you. You're such a total geek. You know that.
Oh yeah, you know I'm a nerd. Come on.
Oh, well, I know, but now like RC, you're gamer.
Oak Island.
Yeah,
Oak Island. Yeah. We got to get you started on Counter-Strike first, and then we'll move to this. I think that's the play.
Okay. All right. Oh, what about that pub one? PUBG or whatever.
That's a good one too.
Yeah.
That's very similar to this one.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna start on. Sweet. Kelly, you making faces? Don't forget also, I'm a huge Star Wars fan and Battlestar Galactica fan.
Yeah.
All right.
Which Battlestar Galactica though?
Oh, come on.
OG?
Well, yeah, the new one. I mean, I had all the. Well, what? I like the original too, but the new one's amazing.
I don't know about that.
It ended poorly. All right, no question. The last season was garbage.
Send your hate mail to Trevor for a lot.
Not as bad as Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones really like crap the bed for the last episodes.
Yeah, it was.
Are we gonna start talking about what are we gonna?
We're
all right.
This is a nerd off.
We're gonna wrap it up. That's what we're gonna do. Just remember though, Star Wars is better than Star Trek.
This is true.
All right, so Patreonies, no new ones this week, but please feel free to continue to become a new Patreonie and continue to support us. You can do so by going to www.patreon.com/Slamfire Radio. We're going to be revamping our award system. The model we had previously of doing one bonus episode a month with a guest just didn't pan out because we couldn't get guests. So we're open to suggestions. If you'd like to send us some ideas of what we could do to create extra content for our Patreonies, send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. Something else you can do to support the show is if you're going to Cabela's, go to our website first and click on the link on your way to Cabela's, because every time you do that, we get a few pennies off your sales, and that also helps pay the bills at Slamfire Radio.
Buy lots of ammo.
Until next week, everybody, please join the CCFR. Check us out on Gun Owners of Canada and like us on Facebook. We're up to 2,378, which I am told is more than a particular or a certain orphanage in Ethiopia. So, winning on all fronts.
Very nice.
Till next week, everybody. Stay home.